My name is Amanda, and I'm 29 years old. For the past 3 years, I've lived with my in laws in what I thought would be a loving family environment. My husband Ethan works abroad, sending money home sporadically, while I've been left to manage the household. What no one realizes or chooses to acknowledge is that it's my salary that keeps the lights on, pays the bills, and puts food on the table. But despite my contributions, I've never felt like part of the family. It started with small comments from my mother-in-law, Carol. "You don't know how to run a house," she'd say as she inspected the kitchen, finding imaginary flaws. Her daughter Melanie wasn't any better. She never missed a chance to remind me that I wasn't truly one of them. For months, I endured it in silence, thinking it was temporary. After all, family is family, right? I thought that if I worked hard enough, if I showed them I was committed, they'd come to respect me. But respect was the one thing I'd never earn in that house. One morning, as I was preparing breakfast, Melanie burst into the kitchen, her face contorted with anger. "Where's Mom's necklace?" she demanded. "Which necklace?" I asked, genuinely confused. "The one with the sapphire pendant. It's missing. Did you take it?" My heart dropped. Why would I take it? I've never touched her jewelry. Melanie didn't listen. She stormed into the living room, dragging my mother-in-law into the accusation. "She must have taken it, Mom. Who else could it be?" Carol turned to me with cold eyes. "Amanda, is this true?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Of course not. I would never steal from you." But my protests fell on deaf ears. Melanie's words carried more weight than my own. Before I knew it, they had decided I was guilty. "You have until tomorrow to leave," Carol said with finality. "I can't have a thief living under my roof." I was stunned. My hands trembled as I tried to process her words. "But I've been paying for everything in this house. The rent, the utilities, everything." Carol waved me off. "That's not enough to excuse theft. You should be grateful we let you stay here at all." Grateful? Grateful for what? For being treated like a servant? For sacrificing my peace of mind and finances for a family that didn't value me? I retreated to my room that evening, tears streaming down my face. Ethan had no idea what was happening. He was thousands of miles away, trusting his family to treat me fairly. How could I tell him the truth? As I packed my belongings, I resolved to stay silent no longer. I would not let them strip me of my dignity. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of raised voices outside my door. It was Melanie and Carol arguing about something, but I already knew I was the topic of their conversation. They weren't even trying to keep their voices down. "She's probably hiding more things in her room," Melanie hissed. "We should search it before she leaves." My chest tightened with anger and disbelief. Not only was I being kicked out, but now they wanted to violate my privacy. I stood in front of the mirror, gripping the edge of the dresser for support, and stared at my reflection. The woman staring back at me looked tired and defeated. But deep down, I knew I wasn't the same timid person they thought they could bully. I wasn't going to let them treat me like a criminal. Opening the door with more force than I intended, I stepped into the hallway. Both women turned to face me, their expressions a mix of surprise and irritation. "If you're planning to search my room, you might as well get it over with now," I said, my voice sharp and unwavering. Carol folded her arms, her usual calm demeanor replaced by something harsher. "No one is searching your room. If you just leave quietly, we don't want trouble." "You've already caused enough trouble," Melanie muttered under her breath. But I ignored her. "You know what?" I said, stepping closer to them. "Go ahead. Search my room, my bags, whatever you want. You won't find anything because I didn't steal anything. But when you don't find what you're looking for, I hope you realize how wrong you are." Melanie hesitated for a moment, but Carol waved her off. "Just pack your things and go," she said coldly. "This isn't up for debate." It was in that moment that I decided I wasn't going to waste any more words on them. They had made up their minds, and no amount of truth or logic would change that. I walked back into my room, shutting the door behind me with a calmness that surprised even me. While packing, I texted Ethan. "I'm leaving the house today. Your mother and sister have accused me of theft. I'll explain everything later." Minutes later, my phone buzzed. Ethan's reply was immediate. What? What are you talking about? I'll call you. His call came through almost instantly, but I ignored it. I couldn't bear to speak to him while my emotions were still raw. Instead, I finished packing, making sure to take every receipt, bill, and document that proved I had been financially supporting the household. When I walked out of the room with my suitcases, Carol and Melanie were waiting in the living room, pretending to be engrossed in their conversation. Neither of them looked at me as I passed by. Good luck finding someone else to pay the bills, I said, stopping briefly at the door. Carol scoffed. Don't worry about us. We'll manage just fine without you. I left without another word. The apartment I had found was small but cozy. It wasn't far from my workplace, and, most importantly, it was mine. For the first time in years, I felt free, no more biting my tongue or walking on eggshells around people who didn't respect me. The first thing I did after settling in was block every payment associated with my in-laws' household: electricity, water, internet, everything. They'd realize soon enough just how much I had been contributing. I also ignored Ethan's increasingly frantic messages and calls. He was trying to fix the situation from abroad, but I didn't need him to fix anything. For too long, I had relied on him to mediate between me and his family. This time I was taking control of my own life. After a few days, Ethan managed to reach me through an email. It was a long message filled with apologies and promises to come home immediately. But it was too late. The damage was done, and I wasn't ready to forgive him for leaving me to fend for myself all these years. I replied with a simple message: I'm safe, and I'll let you know when I'm ready to talk. A week had passed since I moved into my new apartment, and for the first time in years, I felt at peace. The silence was comforting. No one was yelling at me, no one was accusing me, and no one was draining me emotionally and financially. I had finally taken a step toward living life on my own terms. The realization that I had been carrying the entire household hit me harder each day. Without my contributions, I knew they would struggle. A part of me felt vindicated, knowing they would finally understand my worth, even if it was too late for them to apologize. Ethan finally returned home 2 weeks after I left. I heard about it through a mutual friend who mentioned that he had gone straight to his parents' house. Apparently, he had no idea I had already cut off all financial support. Curiosity got the better of me, and I waited for the fallout. My phone buzzed with messages from him. Why isn't the electricity working? What's going on? Mom said the internet has been disconnected. Amanda, where are you? I need to talk to you. Each message gave me a small sense of satisfaction. It wasn't out of malice, but rather the relief that I had finally stood up for myself. I didn't reply. Let him figure it out. Ethan eventually found my new apartment. One evening, as I was cooking dinner, I heard an urgent knock at the door. I knew it was him. Opening the door, I found him standing there, looking exhausted and desperate. Amanda, he said, his voice cracking, why didn't you tell me things were this bad? I folded my arms and leaned against the doorframe. I did, Ethan. Many times. You just didn't listen. He looked stunned, as if I'd slapped him. That's not true. I've always tried to make things right. No, I said firmly. You always tried to smooth things over. There's a difference. You let your mother and sister treat me like an outsider, even though I was the one keeping your household afloat. You left me to deal with them alone. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, clearly struggling to defend himself. I trusted my family. I didn't think they would do this to you. And that's exactly the problem, I shot back. You trusted them more than you trusted me. His shoulders slumped, and for a moment I saw genuine regret in his eyes. I'm sorry, Amanda. I should have been there for you. Let me fix this. I shook my head. There's nothing to fix, Ethan. I've moved on. I'm living my life now, and I don't need your family's drama dragging me down anymore. Ethan tried to convince me to come back, promising to stand up to his family and make things right. But I knew better. I had given too much of myself to people who didn't value me, and I wasn't going to make that mistake again. I need time, Ethan, I said, finally softening my tone. I'm not saying we can't talk about this in the future, but for now, I need space. Please respect that. He nodded reluctantly, his eyes filled with disappointment. Okay, he said quietly. but I'll be here when you're ready." As I watched him walk away, I felt a mixture of sadness and relief. A part of me had hoped he would fight harder for me, but another part of me knew that my decision was the right one. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. I took up hobbies I had long neglected, made new friends, and poured my energy into my career. Carol and Melon's financial struggles became the talk of the neighborhood. They had to sell off some of their belongings to pay the bills, and their lavish lifestyle quickly crumbled. People whispered about how they had driven away the one person who had kept their household running. I didn't feel sorry for them. They had made their choices, and I had made mine. Now, I wake up every day in my little apartment, surrounded by peace and independence. For the first time in years, I feel like myself again. Looking back, I don't regret the sacrifices I made, because they taught me an invaluable lesson. I deserve better. And now, I'm living the life I always deserved. Months passed, and my life steadily fell into a rhythm that brought me peace. Each day was filled with small victories: learning to cook my favorite meals without someone criticizing me, decorating my apartment just the way I wanted, and waking up without the suffocating weight of judgment. My world was quiet, but it was mine. I hadn't heard from Ethan in weeks, though I occasionally saw his messages pop up. They ranged from apologies to updates about how things were crumbling at his family's house. I didn't respond. It wasn't out of spite, but because I needed to heal without the constant reminder of what I had endured. One afternoon, as I was returning home from work, I noticed a familiar figure standing outside my apartment building. It was Melanie. She looked nothing like the arrogant, self-assured person I had known. Her usually impeccable appearance was replaced with a disheveled look, and her face was lined with desperation. "Amanda," she called out, rushing toward me. "I need to talk to you." I considered ignoring her, but curiosity got the better of me. "What do you want, Melanie?" Her voice cracked as she spoke. "I'm sorry. For everything. Mom and we were wrong. We didn't know how much you were doing for us." I raised an eyebrow. "You didn't know? Or you just didn't care to see it?" Melanie looked down, her hands twisting nervously. "Things are bad, Amanda. The bills are piling up, and Ethan refuses to help until we apologize to you. Please, can you talk to him? Come back." The audacity of her words almost made me laugh. "You think I'd come back after everything you and your mother put me through? Melanie, I'm not your solution anymore. Figure it out yourselves." I didn't wait for her to respond. I walked past her, up the stairs, and into the sanctuary of my apartment, shutting the door on her pleas. That evening, Ethan called. For once, I answered. "Melanie told me she went to see you," he said, his voice cautious. "She did," I replied. "And I sent her away." Ethan sighed. "Amanda, I know it's hard, but they're struggling. I've tried to tell them how wrong they were, but..." "But what, Ethan?" I interrupted. "You think I should forgive them just because they're facing the consequences of their actions? They accused me of theft, kicked me out of their house, and treated me like I was less than human. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting." He was silent for a moment. "I understand," he said finally. "I just want you to know I'm on your side now." "Maybe you should have been on my side from the beginning," I replied, my voice soft but firm. "I'm not coming back, Ethan. I found peace here, and I'm not giving that up for anyone." As time went on, I heard less and less about Ethan's family. I assumed they were still struggling to pick up the pieces of their lives, but it was no longer my concern. I had spent enough time sacrificing for people who didn't value me, and now I was free to focus on myself. I joined a local book club, made new friends, and even took a few classes to advance my career. My life was simple but fulfilling, and for the first time, I felt like I was truly thriving. One day, I received an unexpected email from Ethan. It wasn't an apology or a plea for reconciliation. It was a thank you. He told me he admired my strength and wished me nothing but happiness. It was the kind of message I never thought I'd get from him, and though it didn't change the past, it brought me a sense of closure. I didn't reply, but I saved the email. It was a reminder of how far I had come and the life I had built for myself. Now, as I sit by the window of my cozy apartment, Watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, I feel a deep sense of contentment. Life hasn't been easy, but I've reclaimed it on my terms. The woman I am today is stronger, wiser, and unshakable. And as for Ethan's family, they're just a chapter in a story I've left behind.